What's up, y'all? Today I'm going to be talking about the Arc browser and why this browser is now the best one on the market. Some of the technologies that they're implementing is absolutely revolutionary. I'm going to be talking about why it's so important and why you want to use it. So let's get into it. First, I want to address the issue, why is there an issue with popular browsers? I see two main issues: browsing experience and information gathering. Both are equally important for me to use on a day-to-day basis. Let's start off with the information gathering and why it's so important as a developer. I've had to change careers 3 times since COVID and finally landed in software development. So learning information and gathering it quickly is important, not being a junior developer as quickly as possible so you can expedite your career, because the small repetitive things are being automated with LLM technology and AI applications here, left, and right. And so the problem is I only have so much time in the day to learn X, and I need to be able to gather information quickly and efficiently. If my attention was money, I'm conscious of how I spend and where I spend every single minute. This isn't just a video for developers, but for anyone who wants to learn something new and doesn't want to waste time browsing websites that aren't relevant to what they're trying to learn. The best browser before Arc, in my opinion, was Firefox and then Chrome. But what I had to do to make my browsing experience fast and efficient was I had to use many extensions and remember key bindings, how to access and operate them. The mental load was all on me. Right? I had to be good at browsing and using the tool, and the more cognitive functioning I had to use on the tool, it takes away from what we were trying to do in the first place, which was gather the information. This in turn makes information gathering harder and more time consuming. With the Arc browser, it's pretty much just one key binding that you have to remember and maybe one other extension which you may or may not even use, which would be a password manager. If you don't have a password manager, I highly recommend you getting one. You only have to remember one password and it holds all your passwords. That password should be like your bank password because it's a bank of all your passwords. That password should not be used anywhere else on the internet. It should be something that you only know and it's unique to you and it's not easily guessable. There are many out there, but I like Bitwarden. It's open source, it's free. Choose whatever you want, but this is not a plug for that. Get a password manager. So this kind of goes into the second main reason, which is browsing experience. It's beautiful and well organized. It also has a lot of cool features like spaces, split views. It renames tabs. It also can rename confusing downloads, whether it be images or PDFs, something that doesn't make sense, or random characters. Being a dev, you tend to download lots of things, and if the names don't make sense, it's harder to find, and if it's harder to find, it's a waste of time, in my opinion. So spending 15 to 30 seconds, 20, 30, 40 times a day, it really adds up over time. So let me show you some of the features that I'm talking about. So this is all Arc, right? And this is like your browsing window, and this is kind of like the top app bar where normally the Chrome sits, like on top. They've moved it off to the side, which I actually like, and I've kind of gotten used to. It's kind of like VS Code. They've really intuitively thought about how to organize things and make your life much easier. For instance, if you wanted to go up and down and change tabs, you simply press Option, Command, and then up. And you can check out different tabs that you got going on, right? If you want to pin something to this sidebar, you can go to your pins over here. You can put as many pins as you want. If you wanted to put extensions, I now only have 2 extensions, and I really don't even use the dark reader anymore because Arc does a really good job of transferring those sites into my system settings, which is I prefer dark mode, right? I don't like looking at bright screens all the time. So I don't even use this anymore. And really the only time that I use the Bitwarden, it automatically things out for me, and it's auto configured to fill out forms for me, which is really nice. So this is like a space, right? And you can customize these little things, which is cool. That's not a huge thing. What I really like though is you can press, let's say you have lots of spaces, right? Like you can separate your work from your personal habits or hobbies or whatever. You can control them by putting them in specific tags. Say you wanted to move back and forth from tab to tab. It's an easy key binding that these helpful little tooltips are super useful. So when we click here, this would be my work tab. So this would be all my work stuff. And I could keep that separate from my hobby stuff or the stuff that I like to tinker with or different research and whatnot. You can always add more spaces, right? I'll show you what easels are and folders. But if we're going back here, you can add a new tab this way. Control T, a Command T is the Mac Daddy of where this all thing is sweet. So when we hit Command T, right? Let's say I want to go to design patterns, right? The three most last recent tabs are already up in there, right? So I can just switch to tab real quick and it takes me to it, which is sweet, right? I don't have to waste time going around clicking. Every time I move my hand from my laptop to my mouse, it takes 2 or 3 seconds. You do that 10, 15 times every minute, or every 2 minutes, it adds up and it could be 50 minutes to an hour over an 8-hour day. The more time you can spend with your hands on the keys, the better. All developers know that. That is really the cool part about it. Another cool part about Arc is they will have this feature where you can hover over something. In some instances, it will show you a preview. If it doesn't do that on hover, what you can do is you hold down Shift. And then it's going to go ahead and start summarizing what's on the page from the link. So this is factory method. A factory method is creational design pattern that provides interface for creating objects. We can go back over here and hover over it, press Shift, and it tells me what is in that link. So if that looks interesting enough, I go click it and research more about it. So I can start previewing the pages before I even look into it, which is really cool and useful because I don't want to spend time looking at something that is not relevant to my situation. And holding Shift gives me a brief summary of what's on the page or what's containing in that link. What's another cool thing? We can hit Command T again. And what you can do here is you can auto integrate it into your ChatGPT account. So let's say, what is the abstract factory method in refactoring code? You see the search option, which does a regular Bing, Google. You could set up your browser that you want to use by default. Perplexity is also one, which is kind of neat because that also like summarizes what you're trying to look for. So it integrates regular search with more conversational. Asking your question can be as easy as asking an expert. That's how you kind of think of things when you're now talking with these LLMs. These agents are experts in their domain or any domain, right? You just have to ask the proper question. There's no dumb questions, but there's a better way to ask a question to get a better result, just like you would when you're talking with anybody else. Back to the ChatGPT thing. Click this, it'll open my OpenAI account and it will start answering the question. Without me having to navigate to the browser, I can have that within my tab bar. If I wanted to search a URL, let's go to Command T, let's go, let's see, Bing, right? Yeah, let's go to Bing. Boom. So I can just search with a URL, or I could do that. There's also actions that it does. Let's see, how do you do that? Click this guy over here. You can now hit search sections, hit tab, and now you can have actions that you can apply on Arc itself. So if you want to add a split window, this is kind of cool. This will split your window, and now the next thing that you search is going to be in this search window. So if you wanted to go back and forth, you got something on this page that you really are interested in, but you want a little bit more context in something else, you could go and navigate to that. Really switching back and forth is super nice because you're not losing context of where you're at and what you're trying to remember. Very cool, in my opinion. You also got these helpful developer tabs. One thing that I like as a developer, the tooltips usually come up there. Here's capturing a portion of an image, so of the specific node, which is cool. That makes it super easy, and you can escape that. You can take a picture of the given what you're viewing as a portrait mode, and that's what my desktop background is. You can change that as well if you want. You can open up the developer tabs right here. Let's try to do it on this other one. How about inspect is always going to be Option Command I. That's always what it's been. And you have it in phone mode. You can pull it out, and now you've got access to the DOM. And really what this is running, I believe, is Chrome on the back end. Like, Arc is a wrapper around Chrome, I believe, and they separate the spaces very nicely. They integrate it with Chrome back and forth. Even when you're like doing some authentication, they'll say, are you using this Chrome browser? So I think it's just a derivative of Chrome, but feels secure. It feels like a good product. It's fast. One other thing that I wanted to show you about the images, if you just hover over this, these are the last images and the things that I've downloaded. If I click it, however, it opens up my panel, right? These were the last images that I've used or I've put into this thing. And then here you can see those were the images that I was hovering over. You have archived tabs, which tell you what tabs you recently went to. So if you wanted to go back to a tab that you recently just exited, you can come back in here. One cool thing about Arc as well that I forgot to mention is they auto close tabs. But if you don't want to do that, you can change that in the settings. It's really intuitive how they kind of have this set up. I don't do too much with boosts, although maybe I haven't explored this feature too much. It looks interesting. You essentially just recreate a page how you want it to look. It could be any page. You could change things. It adds CSS or JavaScript features onto it, which could be helpful for a front-end developer. You have your spaces, right? So this is like a summarization of what's on this space. Easels are like you've either got notes or easels. Notes, just like a notepad, right? A Word doc or whatever. I've got some code in here that I generated from a large language model. You can go back to the easel, and this is kind of like Paint, right? You can play around. You can move things around. Really cool. If you're just tinkering or you want to put something somewhere, I don't know. Something interesting. I don't necessarily use it, but we'll see. Here is the download section, which I do all human readable images or things that I've downloaded and things that I can work with as a developer. Really pet peeve is getting a download and having to search between random characters, uppercase, lowercase, digits, back and forth. And so that is a lot of the features that Arc has. One other thing that I do want to show you, this is a cool feature, copy URL as Markdown. So what you could do is it just copied my URL, right? But when I paste, that comes into Markdown format. So when it renders, it's going to be like action. And then when it clicks, it'll take you to... One cool thing is that they have capture full page, so it will take a picture of the entire page instead of just what you're viewing, which is neat, and you can send that off. Also, like when you're hovering on, let's say, a Google image or whatever, that's where it does the automatic summarization of the link. If it's not a link, like that design pattern, and I'm hovering over it, this is a link, but I'm going to have to hold shift. So I wanted to show you guys, this is like the Arc settings, which is where you can customize some things. Here's your general. Here is some profile information that you can set. So if you wanted to archive tabs, usually it's set to 12 hours. So the tabs will get out of the way in 12 hours. They'll be archived. They'll go to your history, if you will, and it won't clutter your view. which I like. You can specify your download locations, any other data or settings preferences, you can make them here. Here's where you can choose different types of search engines. Here's where I said you can put it into perplexity, which is actually kind of interesting and might need to play around with that a little bit more. AI features that are really separating themselves from Chrome and Firefox. So you can press Command F on any page and ask a question about it, right? It's your LLM, more or less, inside your browser, which is super, super cool. But say you just want to find one word, right? It will do that as well. 5-second previews, I mentioned that. Tidy tabs, it will rename the tabs to something that makes a lot of sense, and it'll group similar tabs together, which is neat. Tidy downloads, the same thing that I was talking about earlier, and then ChatGPT in command bar. Those are some of the features that I think are super cool. And instant links, press Shift Enter on any web search to instantly open the top result, right? Just like absolutely, as soon as you hit it, it doesn't go to the Google search, if you will, and it lists top one. If you hit Shift Enter, just super fast, it'll open up whatever the top result is. And it comes preloaded. You choose a ad blocker. And if you've noticed, I don't have any ads that were popping up in this tutorial. You can make your own shortcut tabs here if you feel like you need more or you want to know some real quick ones. Honestly, I just use Command T and then it pops up whatever I wanted to do. I could just type it out, right? And then I just search which one I want to do. And then any advanced settings that you want to have activated as well. But yeah, that is the Arc browser in of itself. I find it super useful to navigate and keep focus and keep my mind on the context of what I'm trying to accomplish. And so in conclusion, the Arc browser stands out as a forward-thinking browser that puts the user's needs first. It is committed to having a great experience, culminating AI and information gathering and staying on task all into one tool. I'll be using this tool from now on, and they're just getting started. But in general, it works better than Chrome and Firefox. It's like meshing the Chrome and Firefox together and AI, which is really an enjoyable experience. If you like the content, please drop a like or subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.